Why did Trump put restrictions on Ghanaian passport holders seeking visa to the US? Earlier this week, I published a video where I explained how the 3-month single entry restriction that the US have placed on Ghana passport holders is going to play out. And I published that video because it was important to debunk the misinformation that was out there that Ghanaian passport holders had to come back every 3 months to renew their visa. So if you want to understand how the 3-month single entry is going to play out, specifically for international students, I'll post the link up here, but also I'll put it at the end of this video. And it probably will be helpful for you to watch that video to understand more what I'm about to say in this video. My name is Nenebi Tony. Welcome to my channel, Do or Da. And here I offer informed opinions on tech, business, media, and foreign policy. Let's get right into it. Why did Trump put restrictions on Ghanaian passport holders seeking visa to the US? The answer is pretty simple, but I'll explain it with some numbers. So, in 2019, 12.7% of Ghanaian passport holders violated their visa conditions. And one of the conditions of a student visa holder is staying in status and living within 60 days of running out of status. And in my video I mentioned earlier, I explained what that status means. It doesn't mean that when your visa day ends. It means when your status date ends. And so 12.7% is a big number, but luckily for Ghana, it's below 15%. So the US government has a policy where if a country passport holders have visa overstays that is below the threshold of 15%, the country will not be visited with any penalty from the US. And interestingly, student visa holders generally stay below 15%. Most countries have visa overstays by student visa holders as single digits. That is the global average, around 3% or something like that. So 12.7% good. Not great, but good. In 2023, it turns out that 21% of student visa holders to the US had overstayed their visa. If you are done with school and you get a OPT, which is like a year if you are a non-science student, and 3 years optionally if you're a science student, you are good. But after that year or the 3 years, you have 60 days to either leave the US or file with the US while you are still in the US. It could be, say, you got married to an American, so now you are seeking to have a green card, so that is your reason for staying in the US. You are supposed to fill a form called I-485, I believe, to indicate that you are in the US and you don't want to go out of status. So if you don't file anything with the US government to explain why you are still in the US, you are overstaying your visa. That's simply what visa overstay mean. And so that 21% probably mean that 21%, the number is around 600 Ghanaians. 600 Ghanaians who were expected to leave the US in 2023 didn't do that. And so that 21% is over the 15% threshold. That triggers punitive measures from the US. And why does it trigger punitive measures? That is why when Trump published the policy about the visa restriction, used the word reciprocity. So reciprocity in English means do me, I do you, God no go vex. But in diplomacy, reciprocity means that, or because of ifunanya, what that means is that it's not just do me, I do you, it's also do you respect my sovereignty? And what does it mean to respect a country's sovereignty? Trump has a definition of respecting U.S. sovereignty that includes doing things that Americans want the American way. And there are so many books published on the word reciprocity, so much so that Trump's definition of reciprocity is not wrong. Reciprocity is a guiding principle that governs diplomacy, and every country have their interpretation of reciprocity. And Trump's interpretation of reciprocity, and not just Trump actually, U.S. government interpretation of reciprocity usually includes punitive measures. So if a country attacks U.S. citizens, let's say Iran attack U.S. citizens, the U.S. government, by the doctrine of reciprocity, will do something about it. They will not let it go. They don't believe in the Jesus principle that turn the other cheek. No. U.S. definition of reciprocity does not include turning the other cheek. It means that if you do something to you, we are going to do something to you back. So by that definition of reciprocity, the Ghanaian passport holders who have overstayed their visa are doing something wrong to the U.S. They are violating U.S. sovereignty and national security based on the U.S. definition of reciprocity. You understand? It is not on Ghana's definition of reciprocity. The idea that because Ghana gives U.S. citizens visas up to 5 years, U.S. have to do the same is not the definition of reciprocity, according to the U.S. This definition of reciprocity, the reason why I'm bringing this up is something that Trump has been using a lot this year, not just in relation to Ghana. When Trump announced his tariff on April 10th, 2025, he used the word reciprocity. And he said he's implementing the tariff to ensure reciprocity and fairness in global trade. So if you're putting tariff on somebody, how does that ensure reciprocity and fairness when you are the one putting the tariff on the people? It's because he believes that his sovereignty has been violated. So the reciprocal action is tariff. Am I making sense? I believe I'm making sense. The 21% is a violation of their laws, so the reciprocity is putting punitive measures on Ghana. And so now, what can Ghana do about this? I don't know what Okujeto Ablakwa can do about this, seriously. Because what it will mean is that he have to get the number of Ghanaians overstaying their student visa to come down below 15%. How can he do that? I have no idea. He has no idea. Trump has no idea. What Trump is holding to achieve with this new law is to make it harder for people to keep doing this in future. What the animals have eaten, let it go. But we are going to protect this farm so that more will not come and eat. I'm not saying Ghanaians are animals. If you're a Ghanaian, you know that proverb in Chi. I just translated it to English. That's exactly what visa restriction policy that Trump implemented is about. It's simply about the fact that the number of Ghanaians are overstaying is high, so we need to do something about it, right? Because if it was just about Ghanaians living in the U.S., I don't think that the U.S. has a problem with Ghanaians living in the U.S. Here is why. Ghanaians immigrant to the U.S. are some of the most economically sound people living in the U.S. And two, they are also some of the most conservative people living in the U.S. So it's not about whether or not Ghanaians in the U.S. are doing the right thing or not. It's really about the paper. And this may sound harsh, but my experience living in America is paper is more important to America than people. Your document you are holding matters to Americans more than your life. I know it sounds harsh and I'm getting chills saying this, but it's something that I've had numerous experiences to affirm for me to believe that one thing Americans care about more than anything is animals, specifically dogs. The second thing Americans care about more than anything else is paperwork. So it's better to stay in status than just to stay in America. Enjoy your week. Subscribe to my channel.